simplify the following rational expression, where the numerator is 2x minus 6 and the denominator is 3x minus x squared. So the first thing we should do is try to factor out any terms from the numerator or the denominator. Notice that the numerator has both the terms have a 3 in common, right? So we can rewrite this, a 2 in common. So we can write this as 2 times x minus 2 times 3, which is just equal to 6. So we haven't really changed anything. And then the denominator actually has an x in common. So we can write this as 3 times x minus x times x. So since in the numerator there's this 2 in common, we can actually factor it out. So what this is left with is, when you factor out a 2, what's left with in the first term is an x, and in the second term is just a 3. And then factoring out the x from the denominator, we get x times 3 minus x. Now, I want you to note these two terms. They look very, very similar, but they're not the same. Since here, let's illustrate this for example. If x was equal to 2, then x minus 3 would be 2 minus 3, which is negative 1. But 3 minus x would be 3 minus 2, which is positive 1. So x minus 3 is not equal to 3 minus x. However, there is a relation we could use. Notice if you take 3 minus x and you factor out a negative 1 from it, and factoring out a negative 1 basically means just switching the signs, then what this is going to turn into is negative 3 plus x. And if you don't believe me, distribute that negative 1 back in and you'll see that these two are equal. And another way of writing negative 3 plus x is negative 1 times x minus 3. So x minus 3 can look like 3 minus x if you factor out a negative 1 from it. So now that we have this relation, in particular, that 3 minus x is equal to negative 1 times x minus 3, let's replace it in the denominator. Okay? So, the numerator stays the same, so this becomes 2 times x minus 3, and then in the denominator, I'm just going to replace 3 minus x with negative 1 times x minus 3. So let's simplify. Let's take that negative 1 out. So this becomes 2 times x minus 3 over negative x times x minus 3. I just moved that negative 1 from over here to up here, which doesn't change anything, right? Because multiplication is commutative. So now, notice there's an x minus 3 in the numerator and an x minus 3 in the denominator. So we can cancel those out, and what we're left with is 2 over negative x, which can be written as negative 2 over x if you deem it necessary. So that is how we simplify that rational expression.